No mask like last time, and we finally get this, and there's no problems. This is great. I'm going to knock on the table just in case. All right, so I bet you guys have been seeing a lot of cool stuff, spending a lot of money, having a good time. Oh, Leatherface. No. Sometimes you just look in the crowd and make eye contact with the creature. All right. And there's Ghostface. Oh, this is great. All right, so my name is Paul Salfen, but you guys are not here to see me. You're here to see the one, the only. Let's show them how we do it in Texas. Big round of applause, Bill Moseley! Uh-oh. Here he comes! Oh man, it's always a good time to see you.
Talk into MIC with his mic.
I don't know. I don't want to talk into it.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, hi.
Hey. All right.
All right.
Well, hey, Bill, good to see you.
Yeah, it's nice to be back.
Yeah. Well, you know, you're a convention favorite here, a Frightmare favorite, and it must be so much fun to just get loved on by the fans all weekend. That's something that, you know, well, I mean, I guess people love on each other, but it must be great, right?
It is actually. Yeah, I wish you would tell my wife how great I am. No, but I'm very happy to be back. Nice to see you guys. Nice to see your faces, which is always good. Although I respect the mask, but anyway. Yeah, I'm just glad to be here. And I am missing, you know, my partner in crime, Sid, but you know, that's the way it goes. You know, because I remember he, of course, you know, we were there year one back in good old Grapevine.
That's right. Yeah.
Good old Grapevine. So.
Oh my gosh.
A moment for Sid. All right, buddy.
Yeah, of course. Show of hands, how many people got to meet Sid when he was here? Yeah, that's so cool. Fantastic. Well, he touched all of us, and what a great guy.
Yeah.
And of course, people want to know about that. They want to know about Devil's Rejects. They want to know about Texas Chainsaw 2. They want to know about. But what's the thing that people ask you the most about? You think?
What's it like working with Rob Zombie?
Ah.
I get that a lot. And it's good. You know, I love Rob. I love Rob's brain. It's, you know, crazy like mine. And, you know, I love the fact that Rob writes his own stuff. I've been working with a director that has actually written the words. It's so much easier as an actor to, you know, be directed because he or she has already figured it out. They've seen it in their heads. They put it down on paper. And so, you know, working with Rob feels like a baby being tucked in snugly. And he's got a great sense of humor, and he also is open to ideas. So sometimes if you think of something in the moment, you know, he'll let you fly with it. If it works, great. If it doesn't, you know, hits the floor. But that's the fun part of filmmaking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rob's just such a cool, relaxed guy. I remember I saw White Zombie back in the day, and they were getting ready to go on stage. The music was playing, and he was just having a conversation with me. He goes, "Oh, I guess I better get back out there." Huh? And he just jumps into Rob Zombie mode and like just commanded the stage. And I guess it goes without saying we have a lot of Rob Zombie fans here.
What's also fun is that Rob and his wife, beautiful wife Sherry,
yes.
The boss's wife, they rescue goats. They have a place in Connecticut, and they rescue goats. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, one more Rob Zombie thing, and Bill, I don't think you know this, but a couple of my friends that play in Rob Zombie's band will be here today. Unannounced, they're just going to be walking around. But Piggy D is bass player, Mike,
yes,
and
John.
Yes, and John 5.
Yep.
So, yeah, they will be here just walking around about a half hour after we get done with this.
Yep.
So keep your eyes out, and
I hope they show up for the photo op.
I know. Speaking of which, you got to get the photo op with him in costume. Yes. How many people are going to see that? Ah, so cool.
Right on.
Yes, love it. Well.
Costume is a wig and a t-shirt, but it's a fucking spirit.
That's right. I love it. That's so cool. Well, we're going to get to questions from the audience in just a second, but first, let's talk about, you got some cool movies coming out that we need to know about, right?
I do. You know, I keep getting busy. The nice thing about the horror business is the older and uglier you get, the more in demand you are. So that helps. Yeah, I actually, you know, it's funny. I did a movie with Kane Hodder. This was back in November, December of last year, called Hayride to Hell, and we shot it on a farm in Pennsylvania. And that should be a lot of fun. It was great to work with Kane. And actually, it includes the feature film debut of my younger daughter, Marion Moseley, who is also in the movie and does a great job. So she plays the character Hazel, so just keep in mind, that's my daughter, so nice to her. And then I got a call from my manager, you know, about a month and a half ago. She had a script for the American Film Institute, AFI, as a graduate student program, and they were doing short films, and they wanted me to take a look at the script, so I did. And it was about a dysfunctional family. It's called Home for the Holidays. And I was reading it and I was thinking, yeah, I could play that. It's a fucked up guy. So. And then I was reading and I was thinking, well, his wife is kind of fucked up too, huh? And I was thinking, yeah, my wife could play that part. And then, of course, then it's like a couple that are awaiting the arrival of their daughter from college. And I was reading it and I was saying, that's a fucked up daughter, yeah. My daughter could play that. So we ended up, the whole family, you know, are in this great movie, Home for the Holidays. It's a short film. I don't know when it's coming out or how, but it was a lot of fun because we're all fucked up and we like to make these movies.
I was going to ask how you approach your wife about this. Be like, so this role is perfect for you.
Yeah, well, we've been together like 28 years, so, you know, we can talk like that. It's like, honey, yeah, this is fucked up. You can play this. Yeah, I guess I could. Well done. And then I just finished a movie with Danielle Harris and Robert Englund. This was about, probably, we wrapped about 3 weeks ago. And it's called Natty Knocks, Natty Knocks. And it's directed by Dwight Little. And Dwight directed a Halloween. He directed the Robert Englund classic Phantom of the Opera. And so working with Dwight was a lot of fun. Working with Robert was the first time I'd ever worked with him, and that was really a lot of fun. So, and of course, Danielle Harris, I gotta say, you know, I've known her for a long time, worked with her before. I did not realize how good she was at screaming. I had never heard a scream that good. It was amazing to me. Because I did something to make her scream, you know, in the movie. I didn't go any farther than that, although that does sound a little loaded. You know, it was time for her to scream, and she let out this scream. It was blood curdling. It was amazing. You know, they talk about scream queens, and you know, if you're, you know, there's a bunch of scream queens, but I mean, this was scream queen. She is awesome. So if you ever get a chance, just ask her to scream for you, and you will be impressed. I guarantee it. And then working with Robert was fantastic. He's really, you know, great guy, very funny. And I can't really tell you what happened, but you know, check it out. It'll be out someday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, let's go ahead and open it up for questions. I see a brave first hand. Go ahead, sir. Try to speak at it. Yeah.
Hi, my name's Jared. So just to give a little backstory. The way you got the part of Chop Top is Toby Hooper saw a movie of you called The Texas Chainsaw Manicure that you made, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I've looked for this movie forever. How do I see it?
It's in my desk drawer. So you haven't looked everywhere. You know, I made it a long time ago, so probably 1984. And I used some music from Clifton Chenier. You know, it's 5 minutes. So these little clips. And I didn't know how to get the rights to the music. So I was frightened. I was a frightened young man. And so I never really, did anything with it other than I showed it to a friend of mine when I was out in Los Angeles back in '84 on a job I used to work for Omni magazine, and I was covering the making of 2010, the Space Odyssey sequel. And I had dinner with my buddy, who actually was one of the co-authors of Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Yes. And at the time, he and his writing partner were in an office right across the hall from Tobe Hooper, who was working on, I guess, Poltergeist with his producing partner, Steven Spielberg. And so I showed my buddy a copy of the Texas Chainsaw Manicure on a VHS tape. And he said, "Oh, this is great, man. You should give me a copy. I'll walk it across the hall and show Tobe Hooper." And I was like, "Great, okay, yeah." Because I wasn't able to sell that, and I was like waiting tables to try to pay back the money that I borrowed to make it. And so anyway, he walked it across the hall. He did what he said he was going to do. And apparently Tobe watched it, which was cool. Tobe loved it. Tobe then called in Steven Spielberg to watch it. They both loved it. And they both loved the guy that played the hitchhiker in about a 20-second cameo, which was moi. And so my friend also gave me Toby's home number, which was pretty cool. And he told me not to tell Tobe where he got the number. And I found out later that Tobe answered the phone when I called the number. It was like a week or two later. And I found out that too was a miracle, that Tobe never would answer his phone. But on this one occasion, he picked up the phone. "Hello?" I said, "Yes, hi, Tobe. It's Bill Moseley." He goes, "Who?" I said, I did the Manicure, the Chainsaw Manicure. He goes, "Oh, hell, Bill, I love the Manicure." I said, "Oh, great, I'm so glad to hear it." He said, "Yeah, now who played the hitchhiker character?" And I said, "Well, that was me." And he goes, "Well, hell, if I ever do a sequel, I'll keep you in mind." And I was like, "Oh, God, I hadn't even thought about that." I was like, "Oh, okay, great." Well, 2 years later, in the winter of '86, the phone rang one night, and it was a guy calling himself Kit Carson. And I knew, because I read the gossip columns, and so I knew that Kit Carson was married to Karen Black. And, it was kind of a hip, screenwriter in Hollywood and all that stuff. And he was calling up, and he said, he wanted to know where to send a copy of the script for Chainsaw 2. And I really wanted to say, who is this really? And it was a phone back then, so you could kind of hear a sizzle, so I knew it was long distance. So it wasn't like a local prank, but I was thinking, like, who the fuck is, And anyway, I gave him my address. That was back in the day pre-computer, so you actually had to put a physical script in the mail. And it came, and I was told to look at the part of Chop Top, or I think it was called Platehead first. But then there was a conflict with Masters of the Universe. And Platehead character, there was something, I forgot the exact details. But, and Kid had told me to, look at that part, and I read it, and I thought, this is fucking awesome. That's a big part. And so I remember calling him back and said, "Oh man, I think I love this. This is hilarious, it's funny, it's crazy." And he said, "Well, we'll be in touch." And I was like, what is going on? Because I was a professional, writer. I was a freelance writer for magazines in New York City. I was not pursuing an acting career. I didn't have an agent or anything like that. And all of a sudden, this thing is happening, and I got a call the next day from the Canon Films legal department saying, "Do you want to negotiate your own contract, or do you have an agent?" I was like, what the fuck is going on? And I had met an agent at a Christmas party like a month earlier, so I called her up, and I said, "Would you negotiate a contract for me?" And she said, "Sure, it's free money for her." So, because this is like such a buzz, and all of this, and she then calls me back and says, "Well, there's good news and bad news." And I said, "Oh, okay. Well, what's the good news?" "Well, they want you to play this character, Chop Top." I was like, "Wow, that's awesome. It's amazing. And I said, well, what's the bad news? She said, well, they only want to pay you scale. And as a freelance writer, I was averaging maybe $250 a week, I'd say, living in New York. The only reason I stayed in New York is because I had a cheap apartment. But I said, well, geez, scale. I think of fish, like a fish scale. I didn't know what that meant. And I said, well, what is that? What is that? She said, oh, I don't know. I think it's $1,700 a week. I was like, what? That's bad news? She said, yeah. I'm like, well, okay. Well, she goes, yeah, but there's more bad news. I said, what's that? Well, there's a prosthetic. They're going to do something with your plate, and all this stuff. So they need you to shave your head. And I went, okay. And she said, so I told them you were a working actor and this was going to, put your career back 6 months or something. So they've agreed to pay you $5,000 to shave your head. I was like, more bad news, more bad news. That's a long story. But, so I still have the manicure in my desk.
Hopefully it'll come out, right? Love to see that. Actually, you touched on something that, I'm sure people have heard Q&As with you before. I never heard you talk about you're covering with the magazines and you're on sets of movies. Tell us about a couple of people that you got to talk to or interview or do stories on for sets.
Well, I interviewed James Cameron when he was doing Titanic. And that was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun because he found out that I had played Chop Top. This was after Chop Top. And it came out that I had played Chop Top during the course of our interview, and James Cameron went, that's fucking sick. So that was cool. I did a lot of interviews. I was on the set, as I say, of 2010. So I actually, what I did for Omni magazine, which was what those interviews were for, was mostly interview scientists. Like Linus Pauling, I interviewed all kinds of characters. Sally Ride, I interviewed, just all kinds of different science people. Linus Pauling was, the only man at the time who had won 2 unshared Nobel Prizes. And it was so funny. I interviewed Timothy Leary, although that's funny. I also played him in a play, so that's how we became pals. But yeah. So,
wow, that's so cool. And if that gives you guys hope, how many of you guys are trying to be in a movie or have been in a movie or want that as your career? Probably some people, right? Yeah.
There you go.
And you tell them you could do it.
Only one. Help this guy out.
Yeah. No, but you would tell them that they could do it, right?
Yeah, you can. Absolutely. I mean, again, that's how I got into it. A lot of people do ask me. That's the second most asked question. There's, what's it like to work with Rob Zombie, and then how do I get in the business? And I really had no idea. I mean, I was working on a ranch one summer in Wyoming. And this crazy kid, John Wright was his name, from Geneseo, Illinois. And he was 16, working on the same ranch in the summer. And he was a sugar freak. And he would eat the Frosted Flakes. He would drink the bug juice. He would have the fudgesicles. I mean, he was like pounding that fucking sugar. And what would happen is we would be out doing manual labor on a ranch, the Box R Ranch, and the hot sun would be baking down, and John would go into what I call sugar deliriums. That hot sun and all that fucking sugar. And he would go into these, he was like speaking, not quite in tongues, but in voices. He would like start singing snippets of top 40 songs. He would do cartoon voices and commercials and characters. And I would usually turn a deaf ear to him and just dig my irrigation ditch or whatever we were doing. And then one fateful day, he was blathering on, Captain Crunch, whatever he was doing. And then all of a sudden, out of that came Texas Chainsaw Manicure, and then back to Captain Crunch. But I was like, what? This is the origin story. And it was like, what? And I just thought, Texas Chainsaw Manicure. And I just saw, I had a vision, you know. Woman goes into a beauty parlor, gets her hair done, sitting under the dryer, you know, beautician comes over, want anything else? She goes, I think I'll have a manicure. And so the beautician kind of smirks and falls to the back of the shop, manicure! And there's a silver door, of course, you know, for all you chainsaw fans. And, you know, this door kind of slides open, and out comes Leatherface, smoking fucking chainsaw. And he starts heading toward this poor woman trapped under the dryer. She's like, ah! And he comes over and starts just sawing her hands, like, ah, screaming, and horrible shit's going on. And then she passes out from terror. And then the beautician comes over and, you know, wake up, man. She goes, He has a fabulous manicure.
Love it. Now we have to see this, right?
She goes out to the truck. She's got her hair done, a big, you know, beehive. She's got her wonderful nails. She goes out to the truck, and there is her husband in the pickup truck. And she gets in. She goes, "Look, honey, I got the best manicure ever." I go, "Hey, that's great, honey. We should celebrate with some head cheese." And I bought a lump of head cheese, and in one take, I even licked it. You know, head cheese. And that's what got me the part as Chop Top and gave me a part.
Wow.
Great.
See there?
Life is weird.
Wow, I love it.
It doesn't help you get a job in the movies, but that's my crazy story.
I love it. Who's got another great question for you? Right over here. Oh, Leatherface.
Will we ever get to see the rejects again?
Will we see the rejects again?
I have no idea. You know, it was so funny because for many years, Sid and I would sit next to each other at different conventions, and people would come up after the rejects and say, "Is there going to be another rejects?" And I'd say, "Hey, Sid." He'd go, "What?" And I said, "Is there going to be another rejects?" And he'd go, "Nope." And I go, "Why?" And then we would count to 3. 1, 2, 3. And in unison we'd say, "Because we're fucking dead!" And, you know, clearly something is thicker than blood. So we have 3 from hell, you know, because we were shot, you know, 4,000 times with rifles at close range. But we're fucking still alive. So you never know. You never know.
Oh, I love that. That's great. All right, who's got another great question for us? Right here in the front, sir.
So I love
The actor. Help this guy out.
I love your performance as Crazy Max and Paulson. You have a great fan. I know you did like Scary Sleeper and October and stuff.
Right?
I was wondering what it's like to kind of be in the Adam Green camp because he keeps everyone pretty close knit and stuff.
Mhm.
And also, have you ever offered your role in any of the Hatchet movies? Because I think you'd be awesome in those.
He hasn't. But you know, the one thing I can tell you about Adam is that he is a good cook. You know, because for Scary Sleepover, he actually made some kind of a goulash. And I remember just thinking, this is fucking good. You know, 'cause I was hungry. I was in my pajamas. Scary Sleepover was a series that Adam Green had where he would invite people over and you would have to bring your own scary movies and, you know, eat his goulash and wear pajamas. And it was a lot of fun. And be nice to his dogs. I mean, there was a whole ritual involved. But I love playing Crazy Max. I used to work on Martha's Vineyard in a fish market, so I know that accent, the Boston accent, Crazy Max, who's kind of like I don't know if y'all remember an ad called Crazy Eddie. Anyway, it was like kind of a, you know, East Coast, you know, New York area. But it was like it was a crazy salesman, you know, trying to sell a bunch of stereos and stuff. And he'd go, "Get it now! Our prices are insane!" And so I kind of adapted that to Crazy Max. And Crazy Max was a little less, you know, politically correct because he would say, "If you don't buy from me, you're retarded." But I did like playing Crazy Max. So anyway, but Adam and Joe Lynch. I worked with Joe too on. I did it was like a retelling of Scrooge. I played Scrooge in one of his. It's like a series. I really don't even know what it is, actually, because I've never even seen it. But I did do it, and apparently it played somewhere, so it's, you know it's good.
Oh, love it. All right, who's got another great question? Oh, wow, we've got a lot of hands right up here.
Alright, hi, my name's Abby. I kind of want to preface this by saying I think your movies are fucking awesome. They're cool.
Thank you.
But I also want to say I'm 15, so I have quite a bit less experience than a lot of people in here do. And you probably get this question like 800 times a day, but like, how do you put yourself in the mindset of someone who's like crazy and gritty and just gross sometimes? Like, yeah.
Mindset.
It's surprisingly easy. The best way to play a psycho, is that kind of what you're asking?
Yeah.
Is I'm the only sane one in the room.
Alright.
That's the way to do it.
Lights out.
Sane.
Are they setting the mood for you?
I guess so.
And action.
Yeah, right.
Wow. All right.
Well,
That's right.
that's the way to do it. If you try to play crazy, you look like you're trying to play crazy. And people that do try to play crazy look, I don't know, I've always thought it was like kind of dumb. But if you're the only sane one in the room, everything you do makes sense and is justified. So that's the way I do it.
Good.
I hope that helps, 15.
Right over here, sir.
Kind of ask a follow-up to that, because that's along the same lines of what I was going to ask. But like, how does where do you get the inspiration for the personalities of Chop Top Nose?
Well, with Chop Top, it was probably 97.8% Ed Neal. I thought, fucking Ed Neal. When I saw the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it really freaked me out. It was 1976. It was in Boston, Massachusetts, you know, in the combat zone, which is kind of like the Times Square of Boston. And I saw it on the tail end of a double bill with Enter the Dragon. You know, so it was like an afternoon, you know, shitty part of town crowd, Sunday afternoon, it was people yelling at the screen, you know, kick his ass, Bruce! You know, and then all of a sudden the Texas Chainsaw came on, and everybody, just like the air went out of the theater. We were freaked out. And so, you know, that really just, I think probably the scariest character was Ed's hitchhiker. You know, I mean, I got the great pleasure, and it was really wonderful to work with Jim Seedow, of course, the cook in Chainsaw 2. But Ed Neal was like just fucking amazing. I'd never seen anybody scare you by hurting himself. That to me was like, what? He's like, he's cutting his fucking hand open with a straight razor. What the fuck? That was like, blew my mind. So when I got the part of Chop Top, I just, you know, basically, that was really the engine that ran that character. With Otis, I really thought at first that Rob Zombie wanted his own version of Chop Top, kind of a Chop Top redo, whatever that word is. But it was so funny because I kind of thought of myself, because that was my character, Chop Top. So it was kind of like with the little life rap, you know, I'm Chop Top, I'm Chop Top. You know, that was my identity. And then when Rob hired me to play Otis, I thought he wanted, you know, as I say, Chop Top. But he kind of gently but firmly peeled me away from Chop Top and, you know, to Otis. Because I never really thought of myself, I thought of myself as kind of a sketchy Chop Top guy. I never thought of myself as like a fuck you, you know, Otis guy. And but Rob saw that, I guess, and you know, kind of slowly led me to Otis, which was really fantastic. It was a lot of fun. And then, you know, what I do is basically I just read the script a bunch of times, and then you know, what happens is your imagination, it's a muscle, just keep using it. And when I read the script a bunch of times, I kind of get the idea, I get the universe, I get the relationships. Sometimes you can even get what the character wants. I don't want to get too actory about it. But, you know, you just make it real. And, you know, and don't worry about the law, stuff like that. Just kind of, I can go for it. And that's really how I do it.
Love that. Oh, D. Snyder. No shirt on a second ago, by the way.
It was getting a little too cold.
It's a little chilly, yeah.
I was sweating before. But is there any part in House of Thousand Corpses that you like decided to improv something or just kind of make something up on the fly that actually made it in as opposed to something that was written?
Not so much in House of a Thousand Corpses. You know, I mean, I jumped on the car when it was raining and I was like, you know, yelling and screaming, you know, when the kids were trying to escape. But for the most part, no, I mean, that was Rob's first feature, and so I pretty much stuck to the script. We got a little looser after we had that experience. We got a little looser with Devil's Rejects. There were a few instances there, but you know, Rob writes some cool shit. So there really isn't, you know, there wasn't as much. Let's say, you know, Chainsaw 2. I think the original script was like 80 pages, and it's supposed to be like 96. And so there was a lot of room for, you know, making shit up. And so with Chop Top, it was like, I'd say half of Chop Top was improvised. You know, like, lick my plate, you dog dick. I mean, there was nothing written for that. Hey, lick my plate, you dog dick. I just where it came from. Literally just came out of my mouth. The only thing I can figure out is that when I was a kid, my mom made me, you know, we had to eat all our food, and it was the Clean Plate Club. That's what it was. My mom was a crappy cook. I mean, I won't get into the succotash. Hate succotash. I mean, I've had food so bad that when the dog was under the table and I was trying to slip the dog the food, the dog wouldn't take it. But anyway, so Lick My Plate, You Dog Dick was improvised. E-X-I-T, exit, you know, Rambo 3 soundtrack, all that shit was just made up. And it was so funny because when we were doing the scene in the radio station where I am bashing the brains out of poor LG, you know, the Lou Ferryman, you know, we were doing, you know, take after take after take. And we were in a very closed space. Back in the days of, like, you know, film in the camera and hot lights, so it was really hot and close and really uncomfortable. Each time, with each take, you know, I'd be banging away on poor LG. Tom Savini is right off the frame, like pumping blood that's spraying out of the tube at the top of LG's forehead. And the hammer I was using, the claw hammer, was actually made of foam rubber, and it had like a coat hanger wire in it just to kind of keep it in shape. And so a bunch of different takes, you know, I would go like, hey, you know, incoming mail. I mean, just all kinds of crazy shit. If I had a hammer, 1, a 2, and a 3. You know, it was Lawrence Welk. I mean, it was all kinds of stuff. And every once in a while, you know, Toby would say cut, and then you know, you know, what's wrong? And I'd look, and the hammer would be completely red. all right. So we'd straighten it out. Tom Savini had to clean up poor LG, put some more blood in his pump, you know, reset. And then finally, we did about 12 takes, and it was fucking hot. You know, it was like, okay, you know, we're kind of running out of juice. And I said, you know, and Toby goes, yeah, that was great. Yeah, let's just do one more. And, you know, and I turned to him a little exasperated. And I said, you know, Toby, am I doing something wrong? And he goes, oh, hell no, Bill, I'm just having fun watching you. If you're an actor, that's like the greatest thing you could ever hear in your life. So that just, I was like, all right, man, fuck, yeah. Pounding away, so that, yeah, love that one.
Well, for the entertainment of the crowd, I got to ask you this. I was having barbecue with Ed Neal, which is an interesting thing in itself. And he told me that he was not in Texas Chainsaw 2 because it took away, he wanted too much money and it took away from their cocaine budget. So I'm like, was this set as crazy as it seemed? Or, I don't know, I wasn't there, he wasn't there, so.
I was working so much, I never even had time for cocaine. I mean, because I was getting scale plus 10, they were working me like 20, I was doing 20-hour days. because it was just Chop Top was a 3-hour makeup. Then we had to, drive out to Prairie View. I don't know if you all know that, outside of Austin, where we were doing a lot of outdoor stuff. That was where the Texas Battleland was, which was an abandoned amusement park that I think was called Little Switzerland or something. Because there was a Matterhorn. That's why at the end of Chainsaw 2, you see Stretch is on a Matterhorn. We worked so hard. Oh my God. I was having a ball, so I didn't realize that we were working that hard. But I never really saw any evidence of any, crazy shit going on, because I was just working too hard.
Yeah. I just mean it was just a different time. It was the 80s. There were no cell phones. There's less communication. So it just seemed like, I don't know, like a crazy summer camp maybe.
Well, I remember there was one thing that I heard. I don't know if Stretch told me or somebody told me, but because the radio station is KOKLA, so it's like Coke LA.
That's funny.
Whatever.
Well, I know you're a huge horror movie fan yourself. People can't see this, but he's wearing Halloween 3 socks, which I had on yesterday. Perfect. Oh, there they are. So what were some of your favorites, or maybe what's one that maybe we haven't seen that we should check out?
Well, I'm into, I love Mandy.
Yes.
And Color Out of Space. I worked with Nicolas Cage back in toward the end of 2019, November, December, in Japan, on a movie called Prisoners of the Ghostland. Yes, and for those of you who have seen it, yeah. And for those of you who haven't seen it, check it out. I think it's on Shudder now, actually. Prisoners of the Ghostland, starring Nicolas Cage. And a lot of people would ask, like, what's it like working with Nicolas Cage? And I thought he was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
He was really focused, really dedicated, really just, good, just a great guy to have on the set and to work with. So that was a lot of fun. And of course, it was 6 weeks in Japan, which was really cool, right before the pandemic. And it was, the sad part of the pandemic and Prisoners of the Ghostland was Prisoners of the Ghostland was selected as a Sundance film. And usually, as actors in Hollywood, you just pray that your movie gets into Sundance. And then you go to Sundance and you schmooze, and agents and managers, directors come up to you and they carry you on their shoulders, and your whole fucking life changes, and for the better. And yet, because of the pandemic, we ended up doing a Zoom Sundance, or I call it Zoom Dance. I'm kind of technically challenged, so I had trouble even getting on the fucking thing. So, but anyway, I'm sure that something like Hayride to Hell or Natty Knox, that'll go to Sundance, and by golly, someday I'll get out there in Utah and schmooze with the best of them.
Love it. All right, let's see. How about back there by the camera?
My favorite, I've seen a lot of his films. That's the director of Prisoners of the Ghostland, S-I-O-N. I call him Sion, but I'm from the Midwest. Sono, S-O-N-O, Sion, or what did you call him? Shion? Shion? Oh, that's good. Okay. Because I kept saying, hey, Sion, what the hell? But anyway, my favorite of his, he's done a lot of really great stuff. And he's kind of like a Takashi Miike. I mean, he's like a very prolific, very strange, and very wonderful movie maker from Japan. My favorite is Cold Fish. I think that's fucking awesome. So that might be a good one to check out. Cold Fish, Sion, Sono.
There you go. I love it. Right here at the green hair.
Well, that's a great question. Repo Repo, the Genetic Opera, directed by Darren Lynn Bousman. His passion project after he'd done a couple of Saw movies and made Twisted Pictures like $250 million or something, and they said, well, you know, let's have you do Repo, the Genetic Opera. So I got the job. I mean, I knew Darren from conventions, and Darren wanted me to play in Repo, the Genetic Opera, and he said to me, you know, Bill, I know you can kill, but can you sing? And I had given him some of my CDs that I made with Buckethead from a band called Cornbugs. And thank you. All right. So I had given him a couple of CDs. I said, well, I gave you those Cornbug CDs. He said, yeah, but can you sing? Thanks, Darren. So I had to audition vocally for it. And I remember going to the audition. I think I was auditioning Night Surgeon. And I went to the studio where the audition was being held. And I said hi to everybody, and I was there a little early, so I looked down onto the floor of the studio, and there at the microphone was one of the Pussycat dolls.
Yes.
And and she was like belting out a song. I'm not sure what character she was up for, but she was like belting it out, and it was kind of Broadway in Vegas, and big vocals and strong chords in her neck and everything. And I'm just thinking, I am fucked. Oh my God. I mean, I have taken a singing lesson every week for the last 30 years. But even so, I thought I was fucked. And so anyway, they said, okay, Bill, now you're next. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, great. And so I knew the song. I knew how to sing the song in terms of peaking at the right times and all that stuff. But so I was familiar with it, but I was it was intimidating. And they said, well, let's here's some headphones. Let's do a little sound check in the microphone. So I went okay, and it was like, all of a sudden the fucking microphone. It was like a golden microphone. It sounded great. It sounded like I was in the shower or something. Oh, baby. And it was like, wow, I just got so excited about the sound of the microphone that when they started playing the song, I was like singing, and man, this fucking thing came out of me. And, and I finished with a flourish, Night Surgeon! And, looked up, and there were all the guys like looking through the window down at me, and they were all going like, and I walked out of it thinking, that was wild. So that's how I got the job.
Ah, that's fun. All right, right over here at the end.
What was it like working with Matthew McGrory?
Matthew McGrory.
Matt, big Matt. It was pretty good. I didn't really have a lot of, chats with him, but he, tiny, man, he's brother. So it was great. I mean, he didn't say much. So he never missed a line. And he didn't step on me. He had that's the one thing I remember. He had size fucking 16 shoes or something. And I think Doc Martin, because he'd been in, what was the movie where he's, previous movie that he was...
Big Fish?
Yes, Big Fish. I was thinking Cold Fish. Big Fish. But I think Doc Martin had taken him on as a salesperson. Well, he wasn't selling shoes, but he was advertising them or something. And so they made him some size 16 or 18. I think he had the biggest feet in the world, actually. So they made, maybe it was size 28. I don't know what it was. But it was a big fucking shoe. But he had Doc Marten boots. I remember that. I'm thinking that was really cool. But that was, sorry. It actually reminds me how many, if you look at the epitaph of House of a Thousand Corpses, how many of those castmates are gone. It's amazing. You got, I won't go down the list, but, Carrot Black, certainly Sid, Dennis Fimple, who played Grandpa. Eat your wife's pussy. I love that guy, but he's gone to the house in the sky, I guess. But, you know, a lot of people, you know, the guy that played Ravelli on the murder ride at the very beginning when Sid is doing his thing, that big guy. So a lot of people, even Mr. Willis, you know, Tommy Tolles, one of my great buddies. Yeah, so, but I don't even know what the question was, but I've gone down the rabbit hole. Run, rabbit!
All right, love it. Right there in the middle.
Yeah.
Did you get to do any improvisation during Repo the Genetic Opera?
You know, it was interesting. I did, because what we did was we recorded the whole thing beforehand. And that was a challenge to me, or so I thought, because, you know, when you sing a song, you kind of set the emotion. And that was where Darren was very good. You know, he would kind of give us the general emotional landscape of the songs we were singing. So what we did was when we actually shot the movie, we recorded it in LA, but we shot it in Toronto. And I'm sorry for you Canadians, Toronto. But when we did that, you know, we basically lip synced. And what I was afraid that, you know, I would then, if I felt something different as an actor, I had already, you know, basically written in stone, you know, the vocals, so I would have to kind of have some kind of a conflict between, you know, what I had sung and what I was, you know, doing. But it worked out great. We just, you know, sang our little parts out and danced away. It was funny because we actually had a dance instructor, and who then went on to like, what is that show? It's like somebody, you know, Canada's Got Talent. She was one of the judges, so she was like serious. And what I did was immediately, when I saw people like, you know, doing all their dance moves, I just said, Luigi is going to be the guy that can't dance. I just said, look, I don't even want to go down that road. I do not want to, you know, 1, 2, 3, spin. Don't, please, just back off. So, you know, but I didn't really dance that much, and the singing and the acting really was a great blend. I thought that Darren Bousman did such a good job, and he was a really, you know, great guy. But, you know, my favorite person on the set was Paul Salfen. Mm-hmm. I thought he did such a great job, you know. Oh, God, I just love that guy, so.
Yeah. Love that. Well, we've got time for one more question. Who's got a really, really good one? Because we got a Monster Squad panel coming in here, and Bill's got to get all ready. Got to get the wig.
Yeah.
You got to come down for the photo op.
Making the T-shirt.
Yes, of course. All right, yes, sir, right here.
All right, so there's that expression, one for them, one for me. When you take on a project, you make the distinction between like a paycheck and a passion project, or is it just badass that you're doing what you're doing?
You know, as a professional actor, my job is to get the job. I don't care, you know. I mean, there are certain, I suppose, you know, moral things that you know, boundaries I won't cross. I haven't found them yet. Now, it was very funny because we were doing when we were doing Repo, the producer, Carl Mazzicone, said to me, he said, Bill, I've got a great job for you after this. And I said, oh yeah? He said, yes, it's called The Tortured. I was like, oh, okay. And I said, yeah? And he goes, well, yeah, you play a child molester, you know, a child killer. And I was like, come on, man. And I said, you know, dude, I've got kids. I'm not going to play a, you know, like the child killer. And because it was little boys. I mean, it was like, you know, dude. And he told me how much he was going to pay, and I went, show me the boy.
Listen to stories all day with this guy, right? All right. Well, be sure to check out his table. You know, before we go, we've been doing this fun thing where we take a selfie with the entire crowd. So if you guys could all stand up and, you know, raise a hand. Yeah, we're going to tag you guys here. Everybody in? All right, 1, 2, 3. Woo! And 1, 2, 3. Yeah. All right, big Texas round of applause for Bill.